All right, so we work with local, regional, and national governments, and we've built a platform that helps them gather lots of feedback and lots of data about the community to make better decisions. And so most of the time when people talk about data and their data online, it's a negative topic. People are talking about big data, but with a certain fear, especially in Europe. People are worried about how their data is being used, how their data is being collected, and what sort of kind of impulse or outcomes are coming from that, especially from large tech companies. Well, we actually look at data in a positive way. You have ideas, you have understanding, you have expertise that you can actually offer and leverage into your community, and that none of that is happening right now. And so we actually focus on data as what data, meaning expertise, knowledge, or understanding, or opinion do you have that can actually support your community. So what we focus on is how do you bridge the gap between normal people and their decision makers to regain trust. Because right now you don't trust your government because you don't interact with them, because they're making decisions without you. And so if you're able to bridge this, right now most people don't trust their government, and most people don't feel they have voice. And so if you become part of that process, one, all that data goes to making better decisions, and two, you actually feel like you've had a say and like you've been part of it. So that's really the intersection of where we start. Meanwhile, the government, they're making decisions with little or no understanding of how to. So a lot of times it's 2 or 3 people making a decision about education, healthcare, transportation, the environment, and with very little expertise around those issues. They're asked to government officials are asked to be experts of everything. And meanwhile, they're actual experts. In this room, probably some of you are engineers, some of you are data scientists, some of you are architects, some of you are business people. You're not helping. You have no easy way of helping your government and your community. And meanwhile, that creates a certain distrust that we've seen, and that that leads to populism. People who reject the system because they feel like they aren't part of it. And so what we're trying to do, we see that government is actually more like this. If the reference carries, it's well-meaning people who somewhat haphazardly are trying to act on your behalf. And so what we try to do is fix that relationship. One thing I like to add this is there's been research that's actually shown that a person's happiness, a bigger determinant of someone's happiness, is not if they're making more money. It's not their general health and well-being. Actually, you can increase people's happiness by something like 25% by them feeling part of their community. And so that's what we aim at, is we're going to make happier people, make better decisions, and make people who have trust. So we work with cities around Europe, mostly Germany, France, the Netherlands, and Belgium. We work with the city because we want them to actually use it. We find that if you just hand things to people and tell them they should use it, it doesn't go as well. But we stay as kind of the neutral place between the citizens and the government, so that we kind of act as the middle arbiter in a way. Because if the government does it themselves, it seems like propaganda. And so we've built a platform that makes it really easy and really useful to first gather all of that information and then analyze all that information. And so I'll give a couple examples. So we did a project in the region of Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. They were changing a lot of stuff around the environment and the transportation. We got thousands of people to participate, and then they had a lot of new outcomes and new ideas that came from that hadn't even been on the, talked about. In the Netherlands, they were changing the local environmental law. We had thousands of citizens participate, which actually led to 10 citizens' ideas going into the government white paper within a couple months. So part of this is also efficiency. You can do all of this with people in a room, but it's a very slow, cumbersome process. So we're trying to make it also go faster and easier. We also did an event with international security experts. All of them, academics, military, media, they're all talking about these issues, but they're never talking to each other. And so we put them all in the same room to actually come up with, how do we get more women working in the security space? How does migration affect security in Europe? All these sorts of very difficult, heady topics where lots of people have expertise, and we're not really actually using their expertise to a full extent. Our platform used to look like this. It was pretty ugly. This is where design is important and communication is important. And then we built a lot of features that made it so it's really easy to analyze the feedback that people are getting. So for instance, it's more interesting to know what the teachers versus the students versus the parents think in the community versus just knowing what people think in the community, because those groups have very different ideas, have very different lived experiences. So knowing what people think about the new bus line of people who actually take the bus every day versus people who don't is very different. So what we try to do is only collect relevant information to the types of topics. So all the information we gather is voluntary, and all the information we gather is supporting the actual community. So this is just, we saw that once you add those features where people can actually suss through the information, people use it a lot more. So we try to make it really easy and really useful. We're starting to do this actually on the national level in France. So we're going from these small cities up to all the way on the national level. So for you, if in the city of Berlin, you are able to talk about the local park or the local street, also in the same place be able to talk about the region of Berlin or the region of Brandenburg and how the environment or the education system is changing. Maybe some of you with kids know about Kita issues. Meanwhile, on the national level, being able to really talk about the major dynamics that are changing in the country directly with decision makers and with other people who care about those issues. That's the type of data we're trying to collect on your behalf and actually go towards the positive purpose of creating better decision making. We do this as a platform because we don't think it's that valuable to have your city hearing from you. We want your city also seeing what every other city is trying to do because they all deal with the same shit. Every city has the same 5 or 6 problems. And so we're trying to fix or 100 problems. And we try to start with what are those problems and how do they change depending on the community. So that's where we are now. We right now, for any in the audience, we're gathering lots of interesting data. We're designing that data to make it really easy to inform decision making. We're mostly working in France, but we'd like to do more in Germany. If there's anybody who works in public administration or knows people that do, I'd love to talk to you. We're also raising money, so if any of you are investors and want to talk to us about our next growth round, we're hoping to expand into new markets. So thanks very much. If you have any questions, I'll be somewhere over there. Thanks.